If you've applied for a job or looked through job postings recently, you'll probably notice a long list of technical requirements, a few years of experience, sometimes even for an entry-level position. This is a blessing and a curse to job seekers. So before you really write off a job posting or you jump in and apply for a job based on this list of technical requirements, maybe you have a lot of the technical things, maybe you have all of them and you're just like, I'm going to be awesome at this, but I don't have the experience. Or maybe you're looking at it and you're like, I have 5 of these things and I have more than the experience that they're asking for, but I don't have those 3 things. Before you write off the job or let it scare you off, it's important to understand how job postings are written. Most job postings are written by an HR person who is not necessarily the hiring manager. It's not written by someone who has done the job. It's not written even by the person who's going to be managing the position. A lot of times it's the HR person goes to the manager and says, hey, do you have a job description for this? What are a list of some things that people need to do this job? And maybe the HR person, the recruiter, is rewriting that job description in a way that looks better. A job posting is a marketing document. It is not intended to be an ideal be-all, end-all picture of what that job is. If your job tells you this is what you'll be doing at this position, maybe it's just those things, but I bet that there's a lot more outside of that that's sometimes just hard to put into words or quantify. This is a blessing and a curse when you're looking for a job. On one hand, you're able to see what's required of the job and what might be required of the job. Maybe you don't have an understanding of that programming language. Maybe you've never worked with that specific CRM tool, but they're asking for it. So maybe eventually that'll be something that this job has to do. So before you go into that interview, at least do your research. Google the piece of software or whatever you're looking at so you're familiar. So if they ask you about it, I've never worked with it personally, but I know what it is. So on one hand, that's a really good thing. You're able to see what might be required for the role. But on the other hand, that list of requirements might scare you off even putting in your application. If you don't think you're enough of an expert in the field or you don't have the length of experience that they are looking for, you might be scared off of applying for that job. Your recruiters and your hiring managers who are good don't want you to be scared off of applying for that job. Most of the time, they still want you to apply for that job, but they're not going to say, hey, 5 to 7 years experience is very, very desired for this, but if you only have a couple, that's okay. Because if they say that, they might get someone who's like, well, I don't have any experience, and they're getting someone who's not qualified. Maybe you're not overqualified, but maybe you're more qualified than even what they're saying. It is almost always going to be better to apply, try to get that interview to find out the actual expectations of what that job is. It's good to be able to talk through your questions, talk through with the hiring manager what this position looks like. What do they mean when they say this? What do they mean when they say that? It's better to get into that room, to get into that interview and find out that you might not be qualified than it is to not take the risk. I have applied for positions that had very non-technical language in their job description, and I have got into an interview with the hiring manager, and the hiring manager has started asking me my experience on a bunch of technical things that weren't even mentioned on the job description. At one point I said, you call this role a coordinator, manager, something like that, but it sounds like the stuff you're talking about is network administration. And the hiring manager said, well, yeah, this is our network admin job. Well, you are wasting my time because I'm not a network admin, and you're wasting your time because you're bringing people in that aren't network admins. Why don't you have that in the job if that's a requirement? Now, on the flip side of that, maybe this company was looking at someone who could do that and have network administration ability. The hiring manager just didn't approach it that way. They came in and they asked only technical questions, showed me right away, okay, this is a highly technical position. You need someone who has this experience. I don't have that. And I even told the person, well, it sounds like you're looking for someone with this. I don't think I necessarily meet the roles of what you're looking for. I was able to save that person some time, which as a person who has done a lot of interviews, I actually respect when someone is like, you know what, now that I've got a little bit more information about this, I don't necessarily think that this might be the job for me. Maybe you aren't qualified for a position. That's okay. maybe that hiring manager, maybe that HR person wrote the job description in a way that would scare certain people off. They want a technical person, but they need this person to not be scared away by talking on the phone. They need this person to not be scared away by customer service. So we're going to put all this technical stuff in here and then also put in the requirements, must be able to talk on the phone and blah, 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 blah. And the reason they're doing that is because maybe they get someone who's really good here, but doesn't have all of that, or really good there and has some of that, or is not afraid of that. Now they know this person is up to that challenge. They're willing to come in and apply for this. When I was writing job descriptions, there were times that I would put both things in my job description because I didn't necessarily need someone who was overly technical. I wanted someone who had more customer service, but I needed to put some of that technical stuff in there because I needed people who had a technical acumen, and I needed people who weren't going to be too afraid of digging in and getting a little technical. And most of the people I ended up hiring, especially early in my career, came in and said, I don't know anything about computers, I'm not technical. And they even applied to some of my less technical positions. And after talking with them, I could see that they were trainable. And I said, you know what? I think you would be a really good technician. No, I don't want to be a technician. Okay, let's train you on that for a little bit. Let's bring you in as a receptionist, kind of start training you there. And those people ended up being my best technicians because they were trainable. They were really, really good at customer service, and they were not afraid of a challenge. And I was blessed to be able to have those less technical positions, to be able to find some of those hidden gems and build them. And a lot of those people ended up realizing that they actually were technical. They are technical. And some of them even went on to careers in the technical industry. As a job seeker, it is very important to remember that job postings are not supposed to be 100% indicative of the day-to-day of that job. A job posting is a marketing write-up. They are trying to get people to apply for this position. The marketing write-up is designed to attract talent to apply. In technical positions, in help desk positions, I have seen people scared away by customer service, and I have seen people scared away by technical language. So know your limits, but also don't fear those challenges and don't fear getting to learn something that might be outside of your comfort zone. That might be the most desirable trait that you have. If you see they want 5 to 7 years experience for an entry-level position, chances are they know that they're not going to get candidates with 5 to 7 years of experience, but they want someone who can come in and tell them why they are capable of doing that someone who has experience is also capable of. Now, this doesn't mean apply for every job and not look at their requirements. For example, I am not going to apply for a job that says app development, must be familiar with JavaScript coding. I'm not a developer. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses, which I could argue that knowing your strengths and weaknesses is probably one of the biggest strengths you can have. A good leader and a good company will recognize that having an employee who knows their strengths and weaknesses, good employees, good managers, good trainers, good companies know that having those employees, those are the employees who are the best workers, the ones who are willing to fight through those challenges. Even if they know they're not great at that, they're willing to fight through their weaknesses and lean into their strengths and really apply their strengths to the position. If your experience is anything like mine, what you put on your resume, what you actually did at a job is very different from what your job description said. Unless you're one of those people that is copying and pasting the job description when you applied into your resume. Don't do that. In my experience, my job descriptions have been roughly 60% accurate. 20% of the job description I never did. It said, we want this position to do blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't do that because that was already covered by another role by the time I came in. Or it was such a minute part of the job that I did it once 1 year, or maybe I did it once a year for 2 years, and then they just found another process to take care of it. Maybe it even, in some cases, it got automated. But it was still on the job description that I was in charge of it, but it got automated and it wasn't automated by me. And the other 20% of the stuff that I did never even came close to appearing on that job description. It was things that I identified as needs and I either started doing, or it was something that just didn't exist, that the company, most often the company just didn't even realize they even needed that until I brought it up and I said, hey, we really need to be better at doing this. We need to be better at providing this communication. We need to provide this feedback to our employees. This is something you have to have someone managing. And that wasn't a part of the job description, but it ended up being a lot of what I did because it was something I was good at. It was something that I did above and beyond the job description. It was something that provided value to the company and value to the position, even though technically it was never on that job description. It's really tricky when you're writing job descriptions. I have hired lots of people without a college degree who have been amazing workers, and some of them have been better workers than the people I've hired with a college degree. But a lot of job descriptions will say they require a college degree because they're trying to weed out certain people. I have had a job posting that said a bachelor's degree is required, and I've had people apply without a bachelor's degree, and I have hired people without a bachelor's degree. I have had employees who I've managed be concerned because the job posting said requires bachelor degree and they didn't have one, and they said, so am I just going to be fired at some point? Do I have to go back and get my degree because that's not something I want to do? I've been working in this industry for 10 years. I said, no. Why would I make you get a degree? You're a great worker. You're doing exactly what I need. I didn't need someone with a degree. The job posting, though, is still going to say you need a bachelor's degree. This person was not afraid of applying, and this person wasn't afraid to do the job. We still needed that person in that role, and that person did great in that role. If you don't put something like a bachelor's degree and you get a ton of unqualified candidates, then you're wasting a bunch of people's time. You're wasting the time of the HR people. You're spending hours going through and weeding out unqualified candidates because you have a lot of people that see that quick apply button on Indeed or LinkedIn or ZipRecruiter, and you have these recruiters that go out and essentially find an Indeed posting, repost it on Indeed, so you apply to the recruiter, not to the actual business. You end up getting just inundated with people who meet some of the requirements because you're catching keywords. And it takes a lot of time. And especially with how easy it is to apply for jobs now, you can get inundated with a lot. I've applied for positions before that I've looked at the description. This is pretty broad, and I've applied for it. And then the description goes away. And then I have a recruiter call me about it later and say, hey, so I have this position for so. Are you interested? And I say, yeah, I just applied for that job like a month ago. And the recruiter says, oh, really? They just reached out to us. Yeah, I can imagine why. Because their job posting was terrible. They probably got 7,000 applicants and they have no idea what they're looking for. So they realized that it would actually be more fiscally responsible to go out and hire recruiters to find people and bring them in. Job descriptions probably should be the ideal, but rarely are they revised. Every position I've had looked very different when I left it than when I started it, and I don't know if the job descriptions were ever fixed. Some of what you bring to that position is going to be different than what other people bring. Maybe they have two people in that exact same position, exact same job description, exact same title, but they have different responsibilities within that title. Those people bring different strengths to the same role, but the job description's the same. You're not going to write an individualized job description for each employee because you need the employee to bring those skills and their own strengths to it. As a job seeker, don't be afraid to apply and make sure you're understanding what job postings actually are. They're a marketing document. If you apply and they look at it and you're not qualified, cool, you still applied. If you apply and you get an interview and they start talking and you realize, yeah, I'm not qualified, that's okay. Get in the interview, get experience in the interview, get experience talking to someone for a job that you know you're not qualified for. Make sure you're up to the challenge, because if you are up to the challenge and if you go into that, don't lie in your interview. I'm not telling you to lie in your interview. I'm telling you to be honest. If they say, do you have experience with this? And you say, yes, and you're lying, what is that doing? If you get hired to that position, you start the position, and you're like, okay, I have no idea what this is. I've never seen it before. Well, you told us that you had experience with it. That's not going to look good on you. So don't lie. Be honest. If they ask you if you have experience with it, and this is something I've said a lot because there's a lot of pieces of software in the industry that I could have used. So if they ask me, do you have experience with this specific type of software, maybe even this specific software, IT service management software, there's many of them out there. There's some big names. You have Remedy, you have ServiceNow, you have Sharewell. I have worked with 5 or 6 different ITSM software tools. So if they ask me if I have experience with this specific piece of software that maybe I've never used, I will be honest and say, I haven't used that specific piece of software, but I have used this and this and this and this and this, which I know are similar. That shows the interviewer that not only am I familiar with that software and what it kind of does because I have experience with all these others, I know enough about all these others to know that they're similar to that. Maybe I don't have experience with that specific software, but I have experience with that type of software, and they're honestly not that different. A lot of them do the same types of things. I hope this helped you out, especially if you are a job seeker. Don't be too scared off by the job postings. The best thing you can possibly do is get to the interview and continue to make your case and talk to the hiring manager and ask them what it means and get a better perspective of that job. Not only are you trying to get a job, the company is trying to get a good employee. So both of you have a similar goal. They want a good employee who fits their culture and who's going to do well in the position. You want a good job that fits you, that you fit in, that you fit the culture, and you want a job that you enjoy, coworkers you enjoy, position you enjoy, benefits that are good for you. There's a lot of things that are similar between the people who are hiring and the people who are seeking. Hope you found this helpful. Hope you found it informative and insightful. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching.